Today will bring mostly cloudy skies with a breeze, but it won't be as cold as before with a high of 40. Tonight, expect clearing skies with a low of 25. Tomorrow will be mostly sunny with a high of 38. Thursday, we'll see low clouds with a high of 39. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. J.D. Vance, he's the vice president, gave a little preview of some of what President Trump aims to tackle tonight in his State of the Union address in Vance's sit-down with Shannon Bream.
Ahead of the president. But look, you're going to hear a lot about the importance of bringing jobs back into our country, of reshoring manufacturing, of all these great factories that are being built. But when they turn on, and you're hiring thousands of American workers per factory, that's when the real Trump boom, I think, starts. I think he's going to talk about regulatory change, the importance of lowering energy prices for American citizens, because, if you lower a person's gas bill or you lower a person's electricity bill, yeah, that's good because they're paying less money for gas and electricity, but it also means the farmer who has taken the food to the grocery store, that price goes down because the farmer's paying less for gas and electricity too. So you'll hear a lot about the Trump energy boom, which is very powerful. We've got record low energy prices, and that's a very good thing to point to.
Well, just before...
But it seems to me that perhaps this affordability crisis that is much discussed in generic terms is less about getting by and more about getting ahead or the failure to do so. And that's where the anxiety comes in, even as you see prices decline with respect to certain things. You see household incomes increasing, purchasing power returning. It's not completely back to where it was pre-Biden, but there's progress towards that end. It's not so much getting by for middle-income families, but getting ahead. That's sort of the thesis of Jordan McGillis's piece over in the Journal, Why the Middle Class Feels Poor. The Great Decompression, as it's termed by a couple of economists who are popularizing this, the spread between the upwardly mobile middle and the top quintile. That chasm is growing. And so there's anxiety looking up in terms of stability and something to leave to the next generation, to your progeny. And also, there are things like, for example, the Obamacare premium spikes we talked about quite a bit with C. Stephen Tucker that do provide some concern about even treading water with some in that second quintile. Top 40%, but not top 20%. For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by Jordan McGillis, fellow at the Economic Innovation Group. Jordan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, great to be here. Thank you.
So, give us your explanation of this alleged great decompression that I referenced.
Well, I think that you hit it on the head. There is an increase, if you look at the long term, in household incomes across the board in America, but the pace at which different quintiles are advancing economically is radically different. If we go back to 1975, the median married family with kids made about $15,000 a year. In today's dollars, that would be like $70,000. The 80th percentile family in 1975 made about $22,000 or $105 in today's money. So that gap is about 50% from the median to the 80th percentile, about a 50% gap. But over the last 50 years, as technology and labor force participation have changed, that gap, the 50-80 gap, has widened dramatically. Nowadays, the median married family earns about $130,000 a year. but the 80th percentile family earns 240. That's an 85% gap. So people in the middle can palpably sense that people who are previously just a little bit better off are now much better off. And that's mostly down to technological change and changes in global trade, which is what Vice President Vance was referencing in that preamble to tonight's State of the Union.
Yeah, but so then is this a mistake of the median income household in trying to keep up with the Joneses rather than just, focus internally on getting ahead on your own terms? I mean, and by the way, I mean the technological changes have also offered more mobility to people that are in that median cohort too, because there's a lot of jobs where you can telecommute, for example, and so you don't need to live in high cost, disintegrating urban centers in the same way that you did. Some do, but not all. Many fewer, I would say.
There's absolutely something to that. And as you say, technology, while on the one hand it has changed the returns to labor, it has also created a lot of opportunity for people to do things in a different way than they would have before. Geographic mobility in the U.S. has declined over the decades. Nowadays, people are moving less. And part of that, you could say, is because of the opportunity to work remotely, which technology obviously provides. But when we think about what people value, you could argue that they should be happy with the material progress we've made. But the nature of our species, I think, is that we are social, we are comparative.
Yeah.
And it is a natural inclination to observe what's happening around you, want your children. That's what it's really about. It's about, are your children able to have opportunity in the long run? And what's happening with the Great Decompression is it's not just income. It translates also to where people live and the kinds of opportunities their children have. The upper middle class today, which I think is 80%, 80th percentile and above, is self-isolating. People in the middle aren't able to even encounter the lifestyles of the rich, but not even these days the upper middle class. And so the children at the middle of our income spectrum just simply don't have the exposure or the horizons that children who are in these excellent school districts and these nice neighborhoods have. Certain things are positional goods. There are only so many spots in great schools to go around. There are only so many nice houses. We'd love to have more abundance for all those things, but the fact of the matter is there are certain scarcities, and the upper middle class has really cornered a lot of them.
But I mean, the spread when they go from top 20% to say like top 2%. I mean, there's always been a massive spread, but that spread has grown significantly too. I mean, and at some point, I suppose there are like diminishing marginal returns to the spread. I mean, you can't have all the toys that somebody who makes 7 figures a year has if you make, say, mid 6 figures. But you're still going to have access to good schools. You're still going to be comfortable. You're still going to be able to save and have a trading account and things like that too. So I mean, it seems like there's like certain thresholds you clear that get you to levels of additional economic stability. And maybe that's what people are looking at, is that you're just trying to reach for that next rung, and it feeling like it's just out of reach.
I think that the comparative and psychological elements of the Great Decompression are magnified and made meaningful to people because we don't have rapid economic growth. If we had faster growth and you could sense that you were getting richer year by year, sure, the guy in the next suburb over has twice as much money as you, but if you can feel your life getting better, that means a lot. And in the 1950s, we had that kind of growth. We haven't had it in a long time, but generating that year over year increase in the standard of living is how I think you can beat the Great Decompression. The technology and the globalization are kind of fixed at this point. So we are going to see incomes decompress. But if we're all getting richer faster, it doesn't have that psychological effect that I think is pretty detrimental.
Well, I mean, and to your point, and Vance's point about onshoring manufacturing and creating significant jobs, I mean, we've talked a lot about this, the openings in manufacturing, and these are in many cases, 6-figure jobs that are think jobs, not just brawn jobs, of course, in the digital age. And the sort of uneven distribution of AI innovation and the associated productivity improvements requiring perhaps less human beings in certain sectors or for certain tasks, including in corporate settings. So, I mean, there's still a lot of tumult and creative destruction that's coming that may sort of reorder, who's ascendant and who is static.
100%. And as you say, with the advance of AI, as manufacturing becomes less labor intensive over time, the middle class jobs that are going to be leading to prosperity in the next 10, 20 years aren't going to resemble at all the types of jobs that led to prosperity in the middle of the 20th century. I think that in a city like Columbus, the capital city of Ohio, where J.D. Vance is from, you're seeing a lot of advanced manufacturing, and the sorts of jobs that emerge out of that are not jobs within the factories, but things like construction or services like working on the plumbing or the HVAC systems. Those are the great middle class jobs of the future, but we have to have growth to have those opportunities available.
Yeah, those are sort of the, to borrow from that popular book, the Millionaire Next Door, right? I mean, they
Exactly.
and you see it like in Southwest Florida where I spend time, the plumbers and the HVAC guys and stuff, they're driving Ferraris too. It's not just, the professional services guys.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that's important there is the people who are doing super well in those trades, they're often small business owners. And again, we're going to see the decompression even within people in blue collar fields because the returns to labor are not as great as the returns to capital. If you can have something you own, you have a chance to have wealth over time. And that's just a structural element of an economy that has the tradability that we have today.
So if you were advising Trump and Vance on how to message this to, get below this sort of maybe misleading title of affordability as the issue, I mean, what we're really talking about is a message to strivers, right? A message to people that want to build and save and own and pass on. And so there needs to be sort of a specific message to that cohort of individuals. That's their psychology. And now, what do you advise saying to them in order to convey that there's a political alignment there? We get what you're trying to do, and here's how we're going to help you do what you want to do.
Well, I don't envy the advisors to the administration right now because they're in a difficult position. The structural elements of the economy, which they, in the run-up to the 2024 election, were describing as being, one of the worst economies we've ever had, those remain in place. A lot of the same things that people experienced in the early 2020s, they are going to experience now. But I think that the focus of the Trump administration that is genuine and can have that growth boosting effect that will make people feel their lives getting better is on the supply side of things like energy and on deregulation of the construction of things like the semiconductor facilities in Arizona and loosening the regulations around land and water use. These are the ways that we can get growth going quickly. Nonetheless, though, those structural elements of the Great Decompression are a long-term challenge that the American people are going to have to come to terms with.
Jordan McGillis is a fellow at the Economic Innovation Group. Jordan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And Jordan joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do